It felt very unreal, like a muddled dream. When they reached the top of the hill, Willie saw a row of small thatched cottages standing on either side of the road ahead. He tugged at Tom's sleeve. "Mister," he gasped, "they got straw roofs." "That's thatch," said Tom. "What's—" But he bit his lip and kept silent. Tom glanced down. "I got some pictures of them at home. We'll have a look at them tonight." Willie squeezed the bag more tightly. Across the road, a plump, middle-aged woman with grey auburn hair was peering out of the window. She disappeared for an instant and opened her front door. "Hello, Tom," she said, looking with curiosity at Willie. He grunted. "Evening, Mrs. Fletcher. How are the boys then?" "Boys are doing nicely." "William," said Tom, "go and keep an eye on Sam. I'll be with you in a minute." Willie nodded shyly and went over to Sammy, who was eyeing the flowers in someone's window box. "Skinny old scrap, ain't he?" said the woman, sticking a loose grip firmly into her bun. Tom gave another grunt. "I didn't believe it was true when I heard," she continued. "I ain't got room myself, but Mrs. Butcher got two to contend with. Girls, mind you, but they're regular tearaways, and Mrs. Henley, she had 3 last week, and they keep running away, homesick like," and she sighed and patted her chest. "How's the knitting coming on?" said Tom, changing the subject. "What are you on about?" she said, leaning back and looking at him. "Since when have you been interested in my knitting?" "Since now," he replied shortly. He pushed his hands into his pockets and scraped out one of his boots against a piece of stone. "Busy, are you?" he asked. "No more than usual." "Could do with a thick jersey. Not for me, mind." And he looked at Willie trundling on ahead. "You ain't going to clothe 'em, you know. They should have brought that with 'em." "Well, he haven't," said Tom gruffly. "Can you knit me a jersey or can you not? That's what I'm asking." "If that's what you want." "And," he continued, "you don't know where I can get some good stout boots, small like, and I don't want no commentary, just want to know." "I'll ask around." He mumbled his thanks and strode up on the road. Mrs. Fletcher stood quite motionless and stared after him until she was sure he was out of earshot. "Madge," she cried, running into the next cottage. "Madge, you'll die when I tell you." The road leading through the row of cottages extended into a long stretch of open country, with lanes leading off it. A small shop inside the large cottage stood at a corner. "Won't be long," said Tom, and he took the haversack from Willie and left him and Sammy sitting on the stone steps. Willie stared in amazement at the fields, his thin woolen socks heaped around his ankles. As Tom came out, he became conscious of them again and quickly pulled them up. Sammy sniffed at the food in the bag, and Tom tapped him tenderly on the nose and slung it on his back. "If I start getting my stride up again," he said to Willie, "you just call out." It was a long, quiet road, the silence broken only by the whirring of a tractor in the distance. They turned to the right and walked down a tiny lane. Willie's attention was drawn to a small brown bird in one of the hedgerows. Tom stopped and put his finger to his lips, and they stood and watched it, hopping in and out and among the changing leaves. "That's a hedge sparrow," he whispered. "See its beak? Very dainty." The bird looked up and flew away, and shy. They carried on down the lane towards the farm. Sammy was already sitting, waiting for them, his tail thumping the ground impatiently from side to side. They pushed open the long wooden gate where he sat. It squeaked and jingled on its hinges as they swung it behind them. Tom led Willie round the back of a large, cream-coloured stone house towards a wooden shed. A middle-aged man with corn-coloured hair and the bluest eyes Willie had ever seen was sitting on a stool milking one of a handful of cows. Willie gazed at the gentle way he fingered the udders and at the warm white liquid spurting out into the bucket underneath. "Mister," he said, tugging at Tom's coat sleeve. "Mister, what's that?" Tom was astounded. "Ain't you never seen a cow?" But Willie didn't answer. He was too absorbed in watching the swollen udders decrease in size. "I'll be wanting extra milk from now on, Ivor," he said. Ivor nodded and glanced at Willie. "One of them London lot?" he asked. Tom grunted. "You'd best take a jug with you. Rose inside." Tom tramped across the yard to the back of the house and up the steps. He carried Sammy in his arms as he had a habit of yapping at cows. Willie stayed to watch the milking. A fresh-faced brunette woman in her 30s, wearing a flowery apron, opened the back door. "Come in," she said. "You'll be wanting extra milk." "How do you know?" said Tom. "Lucy saw you coming up the yard with him." A chubby 6-year-old with brown curly hair, earth-smudged over 2 enormous pink cheeks, was standing at her side, holding onto her skirt. "Don't be so daft, Gel," she said. "Go on, say hello to him. I got things to do." She clomped down the steps in her ankle boots and blue woolen dress and stood shyly beside Willie, twisting the hem of her dress in her hand till her knickers came into view. There ain't much difference in size between them two, said Tom, observing them together. I don't know what they do with little uns in that old city. And he disappeared into the warmth of the kitchen.